in different ways, we are followers of Jesus. And in order to follow him, we need to know more about him, who he was, how he thought, and what he wanted from us. And the same problem that we now have trying to understand who Jesus is, the same problem had the people that live at the same time of Jesus. They tried to understand who that man was. And for this, in the Gospels, we find out that most of the time the people thought that Jesus was a prophet, different prophet, or they compare Jesus with different prophet. For example, a very common comparison between Jesus and a prophet was the prophet. In English, it's difficult for me to understand, to remember. Elijah. Because that prophet was a prophet that had disciples, and also a prophet that cured a lot of people, or cured people. So for this, in the Gospels, we saw that Jesus had also disciples, and also Jesus performed a lot of miracles. And also that prophet was the one that gave bread to his disciples, and Jesus also gave bread to the people that came to listen to him. But the liturgy today compare Jesus with Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a prophet, we can say politically incorrect, a prophet that always had problems with the authorities of his time. He always was in fight with the kings, and he suffered a lot because of his message. He was aware that God chose him to be a prophet, and God also gave him a message in order to tell the people. And he complained about his mission, but he fulfilled his mission. And he suffered a lot for that. The text that we have heard today tell us the story that the prophet was at Jerusalem, preached that the Hebrews must surround it. That means when you are in a war and you know that you are going to lose, so you surround it, I think. That is the word, I think. And he preached that. Of course, seems that the king wasn't a king, I will not pronounce in English, the king haven't got much power. So he listened different people and do things in a very twisted way. So at the very beginning, the prophet allowed these guys to try to kill the prophet. And then Another servant of the king give a different advice to the king, and he accepted to rescue the prophet Jeremiah. By the way, Eved Melech, it means servant of the king. Okay, that is the meaning of the name. And the liturgy compared this with Jesus. Jesus, as I said, was seen by the people at that time, at his time, as a prophet, but a prophet that shared the thought of the prophet at that time. For example, Jesus firmly believed that this word is a word full of injustice, and this word must come to an end. And as soon as this word ended, we will experience the coming of a new era that is the kingdom of God. Jesus preached about this kingdom of God, and all his way of preaching was full of these ideas. For this, in the gospel today, we have this idea that he doesn't come to bring peace to this world, but he brings fire. It's not the way that normally we think about Jesus. For us, Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and Jesus is the one that tried to put together all the problems in family, for example. But this gospel Jesus seems to be against that ideas. But we must think as Jesus thought. So we must think that this world is almost end, and a new world is coming. So Jesus is hurrying in order to receive the new world, the new kingdom of God. And for this, he has this strong statement about fire and about division. But in the middle of these statements, Jesus also said that he must receive a baptism. That means, in this case, means that Jesus must suffer. For this, the liturgy compared Jeremiah with Jesus, because Jeremiah suffered a lot, and Jesus also suffered. So here, the gospel shows us that Jesus was aware of his mission, and also Jesus was aware that his mission implies that he must suffer, and Jesus, instead of complain about his mission, as Jeremiah did at his time, Jesus accepts his mission, and he is ready to fulfill it. For this, the gospel, and also this, just a little point about the division in the family. The speech of Jesus only tried to show us that his presence provoke a division that is very, very deep, that goes very deep in our life. For this, the division between the family. So it's not a political division, it's not a social division, it's not an economic division, poor and rich, for example, but it's a division that goes to the most important thing in the life of the humans. So for this, Jesus used this image. So, but for us, it's important to know that Jesus called us to be his disciples, and calling us to be his disciples, the question of the gospel is, for us, is if we are aware of our mission, and up to what point we are willing to suffer as Jesus did.